Welcome, servant leaders of Wisconsin and the world. Tom and I are delighted to host you this first session of several sessions this morning and this afternoon. Tom and I are going to do the nuts and bolts section. This is a pre-International Servant Leaders Summit virtual session in conjunction with the Greenleaf Center and the Wisconsin Servant Leader Movement. Tom and I began this Wisconsin volunteer organization 11 years ago. Tom Thibodeau is a distinguished, you already know that it's on the screen, professor of Viterbo University in La Crosse, Wisconsin. He began the first Master in Servant Leadership in the U.S. some 20 years ago. They now have 300 plus graduates. For myself, I have attempted to apply the principles of servant leadership for 60 plus years in business, community, and was honored to have been the chair of the Greenleaf Center and emeritus board member. Tom and I met 11 years ago based on the interest of like-minded hearts in the '09 conference. And after that conference, we asked people, those that are interested in continuing this journey, let's meet after the conference. And in fact, a lot of people showed up and they said, yep, we never knew there were other people around like this. And that was the beginning of a journey that now has evolved to 2,400 people in Wisconsin. Please note, our experience has taught us that small group breakout sessions is the rich part of this journey. Some of you internationally, and we will have between 25 and 35 countries represented here, we discovered have not necessarily done this kind of a thing. So it is the richest part. It is where everything comes together. You will meet new people, have new experiences, have new thoughts and ideas. And you will leave after a very adequate time for discussion with thoughts and a position that you didn't have in the past. And remember it likely for the rest of your life. Any questions you have for the speakers now, Tom and I, put into the chat as soon as you come up with the questions, and we'll see them on a screen in front of us. Tom, would you like to tell us what this nuts and bolts is all about?
I'd be happy to, Dick. It's so good to be with you. It's so good to be with all of you who are here today with us online. We're a couple of boomers who have become Zoomers. Thank God for all these young people who are so agile and talented technologically because they're keeping us all connected. We call this a conversation on servant leadership. We shape our lives, we shape our organizations, our businesses, our institutions, dare I say our democracy and our world by the conversations that we have, the ways in which we speak to and with each other. We have been partners in this journey, like Dick said, for over the last 11 years, and the conversations that we've had, not only with each other, but with so many people, have been rich, creating levels of understanding, promise, and possibility, so that many organizations and now many communities are calling themselves servant-led. Dr. Martin Luther King reminds us, everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics and physics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. In the last 7 months, haven't we all recognized and become dependent upon the service of so many others? People who have served us for a lifetime as clerks and cashiers, forklift drivers, truck drivers, warehouse workers, IT specialists, poll workers, parents, teachers, citizens, a litany of persons serving us with dignity and grace. Not only individuals have been serving us, but institutions like this fine institution, Milwaukee School of Engineering, and later can hear from other people representing their businesses and their universities. Institutions who have pivoted and changed to serve more effectively the needs of the people entrusted to their care. Healthcare, education, our governmental offices, people who show up each and every day to make sure that the democracy works and our cities function. Now is the time for servant leadership, because I think more and more people are embracing with a sense of confidence what it is to be a servant.
For 18 months since we started this summit, the number of hits that you get when you Google servant leadership went from 5 million in 0.59 seconds to 60 million a few days ago. That's the interest. People are begging for this kind of leadership. They know it. It's too complicated. Nobody's in charge. And that's what I've discovered myself, Tom.
What you've discovered and practiced for a lifetime, Dick, is you understand that good ideas bring good people together. So in servant leadership, we don't spend our time worried about issues. We want good ideas that bring people together for a greater good. Robert Greenleaf gave us that marvelous definition. Because of your service and leadership, do people become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants and leaders, and what is the effect on the least privileged in society? Wisdom is the virtue of knowing what is good. You, my friend, are a wise man. What has your experience,
Not
your
according to my
reflection,
wife.
and your insights taught you in these last 6 months that you think are be valuable learning experiences for all of us who are listening in today?
Well, the last 6-9 months has I've learned a few things, and that is listening used to be a different parameter for me. I was a big listener, accused of listening too much almost by some people. But what I've learned is today listening and understanding isn't enough. You've got to add a lot of empathy to it because there are folks out there that are just frightened. They are just frightened, and you don't know why. And so the sense is you start telling somebody something, suggesting something, and you still have not got down to where they are at. And understanding where they're at may not be possible. But in the process of listening, saying nothing, in many cases in my situations, helps them because they'll come back the next day, 6 months later, and say, aha, I finally figured out that question. So the listening part is much more profound. There are frightened people out there. Suicides are, I think, way, way up. People that have all kinds of other ancillary problems are way up. It's all a result of the tension. So all we can do as servant leaders is be there, show some interest, be compassionate. You can't stand all day long and listen to somebody. There's got to be a point with which you say, that was great. I look forward to the next time we chat, because they will go on and on and on. It's a catharsis session almost. And you have to make your own judgments. But that's what I've learned. The most unusual people are under tension. You can see it in their body language, their facial expressions. That's one of the assets of Zoom today. We have these 9 Zoom meetings a month in Wisconsin, and everybody's on the screen. You see their eyes, their expression, their nonverbal communications, and they will tell you, you can see them all at once. And so there's a lot of information that's being processed. And you process it yourself. And your reaction to them is also a growing and learning experience. Everybody learns when everybody cares.
See, what you practice, and I experience this when I talk with you in person or on the phone, but it's the same of what you practice as a grandpa. It's the same of what you practice as a community leader or as a business leader, to be fully present to the people that you're with. Wherever your attention goes, your energy flows.
That's
and
very
I
good,
think
Tom. That's almost poetic.
I think it is. But here it is. Our greatest temptation, what I've noticed right now, is levels of distraction, because there's so much coming at us each and every day from the media, from the needs of other people, from our own internal anxiety, that it's very important to remain with the sense of focus and attention. Wherever your attention goes, your energy flows. I cannot do anything about what's going to happen later today, but for this moment, I can be present to you and to your needs. One of the things I've also paid attention...
And to yours too, Tom.
Thank you very much. But one of the things, the image that I'm using right now is the one of the iceberg. We all understand that only 10% is above the surface, and what we've gotten used to is kind of a canned response. How are you? I'm fine. How are you doing? I'm okay. How are you? Well, I'm good today. And I'm saying to people, really, you're fine, you're good, you're really okay today? Please give me 3 adjectives that describe how you're feeling right now. And this is what I'm hearing: overwhelmed, anxious, restless, tired, irritated, frustrated. Every once in a while, I'll get somebody who will say hopeful or grateful. But I think it's important that when we're fully present to another person, let's be present to each other in our struggles. This is why I think Robert Greenleaf was so prophetic when he said, one of the characteristics of a servant leader is to be a healer. In your life's work as a servant and as a leader, how is it that we can bring about more healing around division and bring ourselves to a greater good?
Well, there's division like an angry person who has been abused at a young age and just is always angry at everything. And that's a long process if you're dealing with an adult that has that background. And I have stories that will support what happens in a positive way, but it's a long journey. There are people that just have not had success. And in this environment, it just adds to that. When that, I forgot what part of the brain is, the back of your neck, shuts down all the horsepower up here, all they're doing is reacting and being angry. So there's no simple answer. The answer is we have to understand where they're coming from. Do they know we care? How have we demonstrated that? And what we do, not with them, but how we walk, is what really counts, because people see that. They bring it up. You said thus and such. You gave me an example of this, and it might come up a year or two later. I just had that happen last night. It's complicated, but where is the heart? Do you really care? Do you think you have superior knowledge? If you do, you're probably in a poor place. Should I give my analogy of the universe?
Please.
Well, I'll try to do this quick. In our body, we have 40 trillion tissues. In our digestive tract, we have 50 trillion organisms. And those organisms make up who we are. Now, the docs in the medical field know that of those 50 trillion organisms, there's somewhere between 300 to 1,000 different kinds of organisms. They actually don't know. That's one metaphor. The other, more universal metaphor: the Earth is 13 billion years old, I think it is. The universe is 50 plus billion years old. They went out with the telescope, the Hubble, went up to the black hole, went around the black hole. I thought they were going to go in, but they went around it. And what they found was more universes than we have stars in our sky. So if any of us think that we have the answer, know that we do not. But we're all a part of it.
There's a wonderful story when we always go back in terms of Lincoln, who was a pretty wise fellow, and we recognize him as one of our greatest presidents and leaders. And they have having all kinds of discussions within his cabinet, and there'd be people arguing with each other. And he'd take them out onto a balcony on the White House and have them look up at the stars. And he said, "Look at how small we are. Now that we have things back in perspective, let's continue our discussion." So I think one of the keys, what you're saying is this: we stand in awe of the mystery that's beyond us, but in order to do that, we have to have a deep sense of humility, which Robert Greenleaf began to understand that was a cornerstone of servant leadership. How have you learned humility? How have you taught that to others?
Well, I haven't taught humility to others. I hope I have demonstrated it. You can bring up the word, but what does it mean? How does it work? Give me the examples. For yourself, I think you find out you don't have the answers. It starts early, but you don't understand what's going on. Then I think later it evolves into more complex issues. And the complex issues are always involving people. It's always people. We are unique in this universe that we understand. We're the only ones that have the kind of thinking, critical thinking. The squirrels, the deer, they don't have the critical thinking. The leaves, the water, the organisms, we have the critical thinking. How do we use it? How well do we use it?